Welcome back to a little bit of cheese, your bite-sized Wisconsin sports podcast. Sam and we tried to go outside and touch some grass, but there was some snowfall this weekend, so we were unable to. But we were able to watch the Super Bowl a little bit together. Sam showed up. I was working the bar. You showed up at around the fourth quarter when everything was done. So really, anything that happened, like anytime that the Chiefs scored, we didn't really watch it because that game was essentially over and we were just BSing at that point. But this was a Super Bowl that I think in the end is going to be forgettable, except for the sense that Kansas City was unable to three-peat. And I mean, this Philly team, they went on quite a run here at the end of the year. Like they started, I remember through week 2, there was conversations about Nick Sirianni getting fired. Like the roller coaster of this season for Philly has been something crazy. You got to see a little bit of Kenny Pickett towards the end of the regular season. He got to sling it around a little bit. But when it got to the playoffs and Green Bay at the wrong end of the first time that Philly played in the playoffs, of course, it was quite a run. The defense, the offense, everybody looked great. And Jalen Hurts, who we've all kind of had the conversation that he's not that great of a quarterback, looked really solid over the course of the playoffs. No, he wasn't asked to be your pocket passer, but what he did in that Super Bowl, that was peak performance Jalen Hurts and a team that is definitely deserving a Super Bowl. And I think the biggest pat on the back has to go to Roseman once again, general manager of the Eagles, constructing a roster after you were losing some really key pieces and literally making the roster better. Like even after Jason Kelsey left, that offensive line was better this year than it was last year and the year prior. It was something that I haven't seen to be able to turn around like that and create one of the best rosters that I think I've ever seen. Like this one I think will go down as an all-timer.
They got some big boys up front there, Cody. This Jordan
Yeah.
Mailata guy, he's a monster. And like you said, the offensive line got better once Jason Kelsey left. That was the one knock that we were talking about going into the season. Are they still going to be able to tush push? And once you saw that first tush push, you had to think, is the game wasn't over, but if you're putting them on the line and they went 5 yards on a one
Yeah.
yard push, and then Chris Jones just stretching his neck afterwards, and that single moment, there's just dominance. And for the YouTube audience, they see it. It's not like us. Kansas City is not like us as far as the Eagles are concerned. Jalen Hurts, we talked about this a little bit at Who's on Third. What makes a good quarterback? I think some of the Jalen Hurts conversation has to quiet down a little bit. He's, I don't know if he's like a top 5 quarterback, if he's right with Jaden Daniels, but like, what do you do with him? He's been into 2 Super Bowls in his first 5 years of being a
Right.
pro quarterback. He's done his job. He leads his guy. He carries himself well. Is he a pocket passer? Is he Joe Burrow? Absolutely not. He's doing something right. Tom Brady wasn't running around like anybody either, but he studied. He had his edge in the mental game, just like Jalen Hurts has his edge, whether it's locker room, whether it's being able, being a jack of all trades, but a master of none. Whatever he's doing, he is the leader of this team. And this is a Jimmy's and Joe's rather than X's and O's team. You touched on it. This is why Howie Roseman gets all the credit because this team is so stacked. The talent is unbelievable all across the board. One of the big things in this game was they were able to get pressure on Mahomes all game with 4 guys. They
Yep.
weren't blitzing. They were able to drop 7 in coverage and still have pressure on Mahomes every single play of the game. They were rushing 4 guys. They hardly blitzed and they were getting after him just because they have absolute dogs up there. Sweat was a monster. Jordan was a monster. Zach Bond, maybe robbed, was an absolute monster.
Maybe. That is the Zoom name for those that are listening on Spotify. My Zoom name is Bon Robbed because I mean, you got to root for your Wisco guy. Went to Brown Deer High School. I've heard some stories of him dunking over everybody in high school basketball. The kid was a freak all the way from then. Of course, an edge rusher at Wisconsin, drafted as an edge rusher, did nothing in New Orleans, and then finds his way as a first team All Pro in Philly and an interception in the Super Bowl. So that's actually, I'll give it right away. My winner of the week, the winner of that Super Bowl here for a little bit of cheese, is Zach Bond showing up, showing out. He helped change that Philly defense to be one of the number one, well, the number one defense in the NFL to carry them to that Super Bowl. And Bond right in the middle of it. So this Philly team, you call it generational. What do you whatever you say about Roseman? What does this game and this performance by Philly throughout the playoffs, what does this say for Green Bay? Because, of course, right after Green Bay lost that wild card, there was a lot of negative conversations. And Sam, I remember that podcast that we had right after it, and a lot of it was this Philly team looks really good. Like when it looked like they flipped a switch. And no, Jordan Love didn't look good. But you know what? Maybe one of the best quarterbacks of all time didn't look good either on Sunday. And I think Green Bay, I think they're closer than we thought they were, especially with as dominant as this Philly team was. Like they blew teams out in the NFC Championship game and the Super Bowl. Like this was a run that you do not see from just your regular old Super Bowl winner. And Green Bay kind of gave them a little bit of run for their money. That defense held them to just 15 points if it wasn't for the opening fumble that should have never been. No, the offense couldn't do anything, but really no offense could do anything against this Philly defense. I think Green Bay's right there. Yes, there is enough separating these two teams when it comes to talent, but I think you learned from this that Green Bay's a little bit closer than we might have thought.
If you want to lose in the first round, you kind of want to see the guys that you lose to go dominate everybody else,
Yeah.
and they sure did. They put up the Rams gave them a good shot, but that's another
Yeah.
team that we were talking about. That's a sneaky good team. Stafford is savvy enough to find some holes in this Philadelphia defense that flipped a switch. I mean, the first 9 drives the Chiefs had didn't get past midfield. That is an absolute monster of a defense. At the Packers were playing without, their top receivers. We're
Yeah.
throwing to Bo Melton out here and
Malik
and
Heath,
putting up
baby.
a fight. So if you want to see your team lose, you want to see that in a good game. You want to see those guys go and dominate everybody, including the Chiefs. So it helps out the Packers just a little bit. We got the 23rd pick in the draft coming up. That's not 30th. I think we can be happy with that. And
Hmm.
it's definitely validating for this Packers team a little bit. Got to be a good thing.
I think so as well. And there's so many conversations regarding a Max Crosby and now Devontae Adams, especially that it's now reported that Aaron Rodgers is not going to be back in New York. So if Rodgers is not going to be back in New York, I'd say it 99 to 100% sure that Devontae Adams is also not going to be in New York. And you know what? Josh Jacobs has been out there recruiting his boys. I will see what can happen there in free agency or on the trade front. But there are some things that can happen here for Green Bay where we talked about those game changers. And Philly had a couple of extra game changers than we even thought. Cooper DeJean was one of them in that Super Bowl with the one play, and I'm seeing the conversation on the internet that there are a lot of little white kids running around that saw Cooper DeJean take that ball back, and that was their Jackie Robinson moment. And I
And that
mean,
is my winner of the week. Happy birthday, Cooper DeJean.
yeah,
First pick six, Super Bowl. What else do you want? That guy won the week.
yeah, he did. That was cool to see, and as a Green Bay fan, that's hey, I remember sitting there at that NFL draft table. And I can't remember what broadcast it was, but they're you could see when the one Packer fan he shook his head because he knew that they weren't picking Cooper DeJean because that's exactly what they wanted, and that's what I think a lot of fans wanted. But Gutekunst did his what he typically does in the first round, I guess is what we can say at this point, and he went and picked Jordan Morgan. We didn't really see any of Jordan Morgan, and we saw Cooper DeJean on the biggest stage, and you know that just there's some regret there at the end. You know at that point, but we'll see what can happen because you also saw how dominant that offensive line was for Philly, and you could tell that Gutekunst thought that Morgan would have helped maybe be a mauler and really help push that Green Bay offensive line to that next level where they could compete with a team like a Philly. And I don't like it really stinks, but you have to understand and you have to respect that there is a focus on building on your line. And Gutekunst has done that. He's went out there, he's drafted defensive line as well, trying to get a Van Ness and a Devontae Wyatt, among others. You like to see that the methodology is where you want it to be. It's just we're gonna have to watch this switch be flipped by Gutekunst where they start to go focus on some other positions and needs. And we'll figure that out as we go along. But I think overall in this Super Bowl, I will go a couple more of the pop culture questions. What did you think of the score bug? Because when I saw that right away, I kind of threw up in my mouth a little bit. And I said that was some fifth grade B team basketball type of stuff. I kind of want to get your thoughts as well.
Fifth grade B team basketball is exactly correct. What are we doing? It's just floating there. It's is it like put it at the bottom, give me the little ticker. Why fix it if it ain't broken? You don't have to get too crazy with it. Just put the score up, put the time up, let us watch the game. It was coming so high onto the screen. It was too big. It looked like it was floating. Man, they tried too hard. Tried too hard.
I think so as well. And of course, the other big conversation that goes right along with the Super Bowl is the Super Bowl halftime show with Kendrick Lamar. And like I said, I watched this from the bar. So I had the bar sound system. And I'll be honest, I don't listen to a lot of Kendrick Lamar on my free time, but I have recognized his stuff. I know when he's on at least. But I couldn't understand a lot of what he was saying, even what Samuel L. Jackson was saying. And I think that's my biggest rip on the halftime show. I didn't think it was anything life changing. I didn't think it was terrible. And it feels like everybody wants to take a stance one way or the other. But my personal opinion was it's probably going to get forgotten in the end. I want Sam's take as well because Sam is a music genius. He is the DJ. He's the dude that wakes up, sleeps, eats, and breathes any type of music. So I want your overall take as well.
Loved it. Big Kendrick fan.
All right.
I'm a big fan. He there's a lot of symbolism going on. There's the divided American
Mhm.
flag. I loved having Uncle Samuel L. Jackson. That's so cool. Dressed up and I was watching it at a house where we were all quiet and turned up the volume so we were able to enjoy the entire halftime show. A lot of times those live rap shows, you're not catching like when they're
Yeah.
rapping, you're not hearing all the words. You kind of gotta like know the song to be catching on his words.
Hmm.
Had the nice moment where he says, "Say Drake," looked right at the camera. He got,
Yep.
70,000 people to yell out A minor as he's wearing a lowercase a chain, A minor. Which is just fantastic stuff. It had the people talking. There was a Serena Williams cameo. She was sea walking a little bit and crushing it. Um, I loved it. I loved it. I'm a fan of Kendrick. I'm a fan of the show that he put on. It's not it's not the Snoop 50 Cent
No,
halftime show. It's
no, no,
certainly
no.
not. It's not quite the weekend. We talked about this a little bit. I really enjoyed the weekend, but it's up there,
Yeah.
man. It's up there with Shakira and J-Lo just because of the aesthetics of that
Hey,
halftime
I
show.
will. I mean, as a Christian man, I am gonna take the Kendrick Lamar show over the Shakira and J Lo show at any point. Like that was, ooh, that one was pretty gross from that sense. And Kendrick, like he kept it PG. He did. There
Yeah.
was a lot of symbolism, and of course, everything that's coming out afterwards, like after you could actually hear what they were saying and the conversation that him and Uncle Sam was having back and forth and the visualization, you know Kendrick is an artist and he really put his
Mhm.
best foot forward. He incorporated a lot more than a lot of people want to think about this. Like like just Facebook, and I think a lot of this is kind of the age divide because everybody's watching the Super Bowl. Anybody over the age of 35 probably wasn't vibing with the Kendrick Lamar halftime show. But
Yeah.
anybody other, like, kind of got a bump with it, and you understand it. And of course, everything that comes out afterwards, you appreciate the visual messaging and what was all going on there because that's what Kendrick likes to do, and I think he did a very solid job of that. So
One of those things that if you didn't love it, probably wasn't for you. People
right.
that have been following Kendrick a little bit, and he's been dominating the rap scene for a handful of years now. All about it. If you didn't get it, wasn't for you, and that's so okay. And Kendrick knows it, and a PlayStation controller, and then game over to finish it. That was beautiful. I would have loved to see a little bit of Lil Wayne. I'm a big Lil Wayne fan.
Yeah.
You just wonder from Kendrick's perspective if you bring out Lil Wayne, is he stealing the spotlight from you? You know,
In New Orleans,
I
yeah.
think that crosses the mind a little bit.
Yeah, I think that would have been the case. And I mean, Dr. Dre, we talked about this at the bar too. He's the one, he's got a big hand in selecting these artists and kind of creating what's going to happen here in the halftime show. He's got a lot of power with it. And of course, him and Kendrick have done a lot of things
Jay-Z.
together.
I mean, Jay-Z is the NFL rep guy, not Dre.
Oh, Jay-Z. Yes, I'm sorry, but yeah. Gotcha. Sorry that kind of shows you how deep I am into the rap and the hip hop game. Like I like the differing and whatnot. But yeah, you gotta appreciate it. I thought there was definitely good entertainment level there. And any other pop culture things that you want to bring up from the Super Bowl? Anything? The commercials? Like I thought the one Baja Blast Seal commercial, I thought that was at least funny. Like it made me uncomfortable to the point where I kind of had
Yeah.
to chuckle a little bit. But
The sloth commercial, not the sloth commercial. That's the one that got
sloth.
me.
Okay. And
That's the
the
one that got me.
Tubi fleshy cowboy hat one, I'm seeing that one on my phone all the time. That one kind of got under my skin and not in a good way. Like that was I don't know if he can feel with the edge of his cowboy hat. Like you think when he goes to bed, like it's got to hurt on the pillow,
Also
maybe.
uncomfortable. Also uncomfortable. Shout out breast cancer awareness. Put out a great
Yeah,
commercial as well.
there you go. Yeah, I heard some feedback at the bar from that as well when the people came in towards the end of the game. But I think overall, just Super Bowl weekend, biggest thing we learned was Philly was running that thing, and that was a train that was going to run through Green Bay. I think 99 times out of 100 when you look back at it, like that was probably as bad as that Philly team was going to play in that
Mhm.
circumstance. And Green Bay was there. They had a couple of opportunities to make that game close and to maybe even go out and win that game. But that was Philly's worst game on the entire run, which what that says about Green Bay, we'll see next year. We'll see how good he handles his stuff. We'll do a little bit on some basketball here. The Bucks 2-1 since we last talked. They had a 115-110 loss for this is the Hawks. They did have a nice win on that Super Bowl Sunday against the 76ers. Dame dropped 43. Gary Trent Jr. went off for 23 points. That was pretty cool. But then yesterday, of course, without Giannis again, losing to Golden State. And that Golden State team, you start to look at that roster. They've been building something there. Now Buddy Hield is there. Now Jimmy Butler's there. They've been retooling, rebuilding, and able to take down the Bucks yesterday, 125-111. Kuzma had his 21 points, kind of the first time that we saw him take a step
Mhm.
forward there in the offensive game for Milwaukee. My biggest takeaway is just the absence of Giannis and knowing that when Giannis isn't out there on the floor, that Bucks team is at about 50%. You would have to say overall. And that's my overall take as we're about to go into the All Star break after they take on the T Wolves on Wednesday.
Yeah, Giannis is the entire identity of this team. Dame has led teams in the past, and like we saw, he put up 40 for a win on Sunday. He's brought the Blazers to the playoffs many, many years. He's brought the
Mm-hmm.
Blazers to the first round of the playoffs many, many years. So we know Dame is good enough to carry a team and able to do it well. But with no Giannis, this is not the real Bucks team. Past couple of games since we've had some new guys, my biggest takeaway is Kyle Kuzma is 6'10". This is a big guy. I didn't know that he's a 6'10" three. He's not going to beat the inefficient allocations anytime soon. I think he takes some dumb shots. I did see him airball a couple shots
I
yesterday.
saw him
Um,
airball a free throw as well. That
oh,
did
that's
come
tough.
across my feed. Yeah, it was bad.
That's tough. Hey, he was playing unserious basketball in Washington for quite some time. So if he's got to get a little bit of wheels to start taking things seriously,
Mm-hmm.
but he's talking a lot on defense. You can hear a voice out there that you weren't hearing before. Kuzma's talking a lot on defense. I think that shows the effort that he is trying to flip a switch and be part of this team. Because out of all the new guys that we got, obviously Kuzma is going to be playing the most minutes. We got him for the most direct reasoning. He's going to be taking the shots. Just like Chris, that we can give the ball to and say, hey, go put a shot up. Kuzma can do that. He's not the efficient scorer, but just like, we can say, hey, things aren't working over here. We're getting doubled everywhere. Kuzma put up a shot. We'll go run back on defense. He can fill that role.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Other thing, Gary Trent went off on Sunday. I think that adding the new faces is going to be really good for Gary Trent and Torian Prince and those guys. And
Mhm.
Prince stepped up yesterday as well. When you start to add more of that 8, 9, 10 depth guys, these guys are really fighting for their minutes because that 10 guy is not going to play in the playoffs. Your 7 guy is going to play a lot of minutes in the playoffs. Gary Trent knows that he has not been living up to himself. Torian Prince knows that he's the 7, 8 guy in this rotation. And you're adding some more guys, you're messing with that rotation players. I think they see the pressure on them to step up. And I really look forward to seeing high efficient numbers from Gary Trent, more specifically than anything else going forward. If he sees Kevin Porter Jr. is a dog and is threatening him for minutes, I think that competition is going to bring the best out of our seventh and eighth rotation player.
I think so as well. I think that in the end, I think there is a chance. I don't know if it's more likely or less likely that this team comes out in positive in the end. When it gets to the playoffs, I think that's where we can really look back at these trades and understand if there was actually a difference that was made at that trade deadline. Because there were more moves that were made than I think both you and I expected. I think we were both hoping for a Zach LaVine. That didn't happen, but then there was still a whole bunch of trades that went on and wasn't quite expected. Uh, we'll see where Milwaukee takes it after this. They'll take on the T Wolves on Wednesday, and then of course into that All Star break. And Giannis out with injury, he will not be in the All Star game. He'll miss those festivities, but he should be back shortly after the All Star break. So it's good he gets his nice long rest, a couple of weeks where he can kind of just sit back, get things to 100% before they really put the nose to the grindstone. Wisconsin last Saturday over Iowa and the boys basketball. 74-63 the final score there. John Tonje, 22 points. John Blackwell with 19 points. This Wisconsin team, once again, taking on another Big Ten foe. That was kind of the let's get set up here in the Big Ten before they go and take on Purdue. Things are shaking up here. Things are interesting. I think Wisconsin still has the opportunity to go and compete for even that regular season Big Ten title. Like, the things are getting close here towards the end, and you just love to see the consistency from your top two scorers in Tonje and Blackwell.
That's what we've been asking for all year is consistency. If they can start
Mhm.
putting it together, they've been outperforming themselves all year. They're racking up the Big Ten wins. If they can be consistent, if they can move the ball, they can play defense. We know these guys can score. They're higher ranked than Marquette right now. I don't know what else you
Yes,
could
they
ask
are.
for a Badger team.
That's Bucky, baby. That's the W. Got to flip it around there, Sam. We'll always take you back. But yeah, Bucky on a bit of a roll, and they'll take on Purdue on Saturday. So no, Sam was having some great ideas over the course of this weekend. Super Bowl Sunday did move into Monday, so Sam had some greater ideas that even came to the plate yesterday. And today we got a plate full of cheese. We're going to try to go through some awards here with, of course, the cheese base here on a little bit of cheese over the course of the NFL season. And this will try to put that stamp on it. And as unmemorable of a Green Bay season that we made it, or we thought it was, we're going to try to put a stamp on it here with maybe some cheesy awards. So Sam's going to present the cheesy award to the table, and then him and I are going to have some discourse, and we will crown it right before the eyes. So all the behind the scenes stuff that usually happens before the show, it's going to happen here live before everybody's eyes. So you'll get to kind of see the arguments that Sam and I have all the time.
My first 2024 NFL cheese. These have no importance. These are literally just things I made up while sitting on my couch yesterday. So get too mad. Cheese curds.
Cheese
Great
curds.
appetizer. Not writing home about it. Fantastic. Gets the conversation going. Can't go wrong with some cheese curds. That's my first award. What do you think? Who's the cheese curd champion?
So you
Best
think just
appetizer
the
out there.
appetizer? Like you're saying they had a good start and that's all they needed?
Hey, some people might have had it for dinner. They would have been wrong, but I've seen the move before. It's a great appetizer. It's a
I
great
mean,
appetizer.
I've had cheese curds maybe even carry me into dessert, really. And
Yeah.
I think then once you're done with the cheese curds into the dessert, I think it all falls apart. And I think we saw that exact same thing happen here this year with the Minnesota Vikings. Congratulations, cheese curds of the year. They had it going in the beginning. They had everybody fooled. They even had me saying that they were a legit contender until that first round of the playoffs. And then when it got to dessert, you can only fill up with so many cheese curds, and Minnesota just didn't have it in them. So that's my pick for the 2024 season, cheese curd.
I stayed in the NFC North with you. You eat too many cheese curds, you might go to the doctor's office. And the Detroit Lions absolutely did.
Yeah,
Uh, I think they had their fill. They were a great appetizer, great conversation point to start this meal of the 2024 season. I think that's two winners. That's two good cheese curds.
similar
Next,
seasons, different expectations, but similar seasons.
blue cheese.
Blue cheese, and you're
Blue
saying
cheese.
the underrated is what you're
Get some
explaining to
hate.
me.
Get some hate. A lot of people don't like blue cheese. You know what? That's a damn good cheese, Cody. It can go on everything. It's a good cheese. Some people don't like it, but you know what? It's everywhere, whether you like it or not.
I'll let you set the table with your blue cheese here on this one.
I gave it the Eagles. I gave it the Eagles. I think it's a polarizing cheese. If you don't like blue cheese, you're probably wrong. And I think that's exactly what Nick Sirianni would say about the Eagles. They're everywhere. They're here. They're on the menu. It's going to be on your burger, whether you like it or not. And you're going to bite that burger, and you know what? You're going to be glad you got blue cheese on that burger.
I like the answer. I don't know if that's going to be a universal answer from everybody in coinciding with blue cheese.
A
I think
little
for this blue
stinky.
cheese, I think I'm going to go with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Just
Sure.
like going out on a limb here, but where like it can be good with some things, and it can put you right there. But when it comes down to it, it's not going to be your first pick, and it might be a first round exit against a rookie quarterback.
Sure.
That's going to be my pick for it. Is going to be the Tampa Bay Buccaneers for the Blue Cheese Award.
I love it. You got a fun one here. 12-year cave aged cheddar. Should
Oh boy.
I say 20-year cave aged cheddar? Um, Musty. Didn't really expect to like it this year. Came from the darkness. Is
Uh,
is
I'll
Aaron
pick.
Rodgers.
Rodgers. Yes, that's a good selection. And you know what? I'll say Russell Wilson as well. Kind of
Sure.
coming out coming out of nowhere in the darkness that he was experiencing over in Denver. And I mean, it got to a point where you're like, okay, maybe this 12-year age Cheddar's all right. But then in the end, you knew it wasn't the first pick.
I love it. Russell Wilson absolutely came from the darkness. Swiss cheese. Swiss cheese award. Um, I don't know. Panthers defense is what I had. Is
You got a lot
a
of
winner.
holes.
Yeah, I felt like everybody was putting 40 up on them every other week. They're the only team to let up 400 yards and 60 touchdowns this season. 400 yards a game and 60 total touchdowns this season. Swiss award goes to the Panthers defense.
Yeah, that's a good one. I'll stick with Green Bay here because it is my biggest bone to pick. I think with this roster, and it was the pass rush. Like this year, you thought that you were going to get some steps taken forward between even a Rashawn Gary, who we've seen play really, really well at a Pro Bowl type level, which he actually got his first Pro Bowl nod this year, and maybe the least deserving year of his career, I think, to get that Pro Bowl nod. But a Lucas Van Ness you thought would really have an impact on the game as long as a Devontae Wyatt, TJ Slayton, the guys just weren't there. Opposing quarterbacks had so much time to sit back in the pocket and throw. I'll give them the Swiss cheese award.
I love that. Always hitting in some spots, always missing in some spots.
Yeah, there you go.
That's good. That's good. Mozzarella,
Mm,
semi-soft, traditionally made from buffalo milk. I have the Chiefs.
you have the Chiefs. Okay.
The buffalo
I
milk was just too good for me.
Yeah, no, that is good. I mean, I think you can pick the Bills team too. I think with the Buffalo there, that's kind of where it brought my mind. I mean, when it got down to it, Josh Allen and those boys, they had an opportunity to go and take down the Chiefs and get to the Super Bowl. They had that
Mhm.
opportunity on a silver platter, down by 3. You have the ball with 2 minutes left. They were not able to execute. A little bit soft and made out of buffalo milk. I that's actually news to me. I had no. I'm gonna have to go check my fridge after this to see where my mozzarella milk is coming from. But
Additionally, I like it. I like it. We got three more. I think they're probably the three biggest ones. First one is going to be the Chev. Not familiar with Chev. 2024 Chev is the Goat Cheese Award winner. For me, congratulations, Saquon Barkley. You're the Goat Cheese Award winner. You're in a different echelon, my friend. You are a Hall of Famer now. You are one of the top 10 running backs ever. You did it. You are stamped with the 2024 Goat Cheese for me.
it's hard to not give it to him. Even after he didn't have the performance that we might have all expected
Mhm.
on Sunday, you saw the impact that he had. You saw people drop out of the box and they left space open when Saquon was not getting the ball, and that left things open for Jalen Hurts to rush for over 80 yards. He had so much value to that team, and you just hope that this starts to impact the running back market, and I think that it's going to, where you saw three top running backs switch teams, and those three in Henry and Saquon and Josh Jacobs, they are top three in the NFL in rushing. And I think the running back position as a whole is kind of going to take that next step next year. And it all comes down to what Saquon Barkley was able to do his first year with the new team, over 2,000 yards, was a beast through the playoffs and a Super Bowl title. I can't pick anyone different. That's your Chev.
Love it. Kraft singles. Embarrassing to cheese. Not real cheese. We don't want it for the 10th year in a row. Congratulations, Brandon Bostic, for being the Kraft single.
Oh boy. That's yeah, that's a tough one. I didn't need to think about that today. I was having a pretty decent day until we got to this point. Uh, the Kraft single. So I mean it's common. So
It's
it's like you
everywhere.
kind of see it all the time.
Can't run from it.
Uh, you run from it.
You can't run from it.
You can't run from it. Yeah, it's gonna be there. And I'm gonna give it to Kansas City going to the Super Bowl once again. I mean,
Sure.
it's kind of it's what we didn't want. And I said at the beginning of this season, the only thing that really makes me start to enjoy the overall encompassing of the NFL again is for the Chiefs to not win the Super Bowl. And I mean, I got that, but I'll say for next year, I'd rather not even see the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. Just give us something a little bit
Yeah.
different. But in the end, it seemed inevitable. And you still do have to give Kansas City a pat on the back because there are teams that haven't even been to a Super Bowl yet and still just consistently find their way there. And they're going to be scary once again next year. You get a Rashee Rice back. They start to revamp that roster. Maybe they start to not rely on an aging Travis Kelce as much anymore next year. They're going to be right back, and they're going to be just as good. And that Spagnuolo defense, I don't think, is going to get carved up the same way that they did. I think their main focal point going into that Super Bowl was to contain Saquon Barkley. They did that. They
Mhm.
succeeded there. But Philly, just too deep, too talented all around. They couldn't handle it.
My last award that I have written down is the Car Valley Colby. Colby is from Wisconsin. Car Valley is an award-winning Wisconsin cheesery. Oh, if that's the right word. Homegrown, not aged, fresh, represents Wisconsin well. Congratulations, Tucker Kraft, for me winning the Car Valley Colby Award winner, Wisconsin's favorite freshest homegrown cheese.
I'll go even more homegrown, and I think
Yeah,
it's Zach Bond. He already won the Winner of the
cool.
Week award, but that is your homegrown Brown Deer, Wisconsin, representing the state well, getting that interception of one of the greatest quarterbacks we've ever seen in the Super Bowl. So congratulations to Tucker Kraft and Zach Bond. But yeah, Kraft having himself 1 year too. I got some really high hopes going in for him next year. I think a top five tight end in the NFL and someone who could really revolutionize this offense for Green Bay. Him and Jacobs, I think, are going to be the two focal points, and we'll see what they can
Gotta
do
be.
with wide receiver. But you got a really good start when you have a running back like Jacobs and a tight end like Kraft. And I think that's kind of all I have for today. I think those cheese awards were fun. I'm excited for next year. I think Green Bay is going to be right there. Now we can finally start to look on to baseball season. And some more news if nobody saw it online, but the Brewers will be wearing a Bob Uecker patch on the sleeve. I think a great
Mhm.
nod to him. It's going to have to happen. I had this conversation all weekend too with some people who they're kind of, I'd say, fair weather Brewer fans. I said it, if there's a year to root for Milwaukee and if the baseball gods really do exist, this has to be a year that you see them go and do something special. after Bob Uecker passed away. So I think kind of my final note there. Sam, anything you want to leave for the people?
I'm ready to be done with the Chiefs, Cody. I'm ready to be done with them. I want that ship to sail for me. I towards the end of this year, I was a fan of the greatness. I don't think Brady would have choked like that. Mahomes didn't do it. I'm ready to see some new teams. I'm ready to see the Texans in there. I'm ready to see Stroud blow up. I'm ready to see Lamar get his flowers. I was a fan of the greatness, and I am off the Chiefs bandwagon.
I mean, I can't. I might have been on it for 1 or 2 years, like in 2018,
Yeah,
2019, when Tom Brady was still doing it. But yeah, I think I'm ready for it, but I don't see it happening until Big Red's out of there. Until Andy Reid
sure.
retires, I don't think the Chiefs are going anywhere. The same goes for Spagnuolo, and we'll see what happens with Mahomes' career after Andy Reid retires, because I don't think Andy Reid's going to stick it out for Patrick Mahomes' entire career. So we'll see what happens. We'll see what it does for the GOAT debate. But seeing another piece of history on Sunday with the Super Bowl. It is Tuesday, and we'll be back on Friday with another edition of A Little Bit of Cheese, your bite-sized Wisconsin sports podcast.